India was in first stage of demographic transition. The second stage of transition theory transition basically began after 1920. Okay.
Done. Done.
So now you'll just give the next heading, which is quantitative. Just don't write it down. I'll just let you know. Quantitative appraisal of India's demographic profile during the colonial period. So quantitative appraisal is basically demographic. It in demography everything will be related to population, like what was the literacy rate, was the health facility, everything, right? So quantitative appraisal means you have to give the data. Whether the literacy rate was 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, like this, you have to give the data. Okay. So first thing which you will write, first you will write population. Okay, so quantitative, you'll give the heading quantitative appraisal of India's demographic profile during the colonial period. And after that, you will write population. So neither the total population of India nor the rate of population growth during second stage of demographic transition was very high, right? So you just have to tell that it was not very high. The total population was not very high. Why? Because if 10 people are 10 newborn babies are there, so 10 people are dying because both of that was high, right? So that's why there was, you can say, no such effect on the total population. So neither the total population of India nor the rate of population growth during the second stage of demographic transition was very high. In India, this was the situation, right? Now, next thing is second, you'll write low level of literacy. So the overall literacy is basically how much educated you are. So there was high birth rate, that means people were not educated, right? So the overall literacy level was less than 16%. Out of this, the female literacy level was negligible, lower than 7%. So one is total population, that either male or female, you are you are taking both the candidates, right? Both the people. But if it will come for female literacy, you are going to calculate only female. So overall, out of 100, only 16% people were literate. So you have to remember this. Okay, just don't feel like that, okay, we won't be remembering. You have to, because the question is quantitative. So you have to give the quantitative data. You have to give the numericals, right? The numbers, data in numbers. So was less than 16%. Out of this, the female literacy level was negligible. Like it was, you can say 7%. Out of 100, 7% is just something you can neglect, right? So this was the level of literacy. Next one is lack of educate. Educates means enough. Okay, for example, if there are 100 people, so at least there should be 6 to 7 hospitals, right? At least 4 to 5 hospitals. But what was happening at that time? If there are 100 people over here, only one hospital was there, right? So lack of educate. Educate means sufficient public health facilities. So public health facilities were neither available to large chunk of population. See, it was not available in most of the places, but in case when available were highly inadequate. Inadequate means they were not sufficient. For 100 people, only one hospital was there. So either they was not available, or if it was available, it was inadequate. Adequate means sufficient, inadequate means not sufficient. Okay. Consequently, water and airborne diseases were rampant, and that took huge toll on life. Toll is basically tax on life. See, at that moment, airborne diseases and waterborne diseases were rampant. Like it was so common. Why? Because people were not aware about hygiene and all that, right? So what was happening? Because of airborne diseases and waterborne diseases, people were feeling ill. And see, if you fell ill, you need medical treatment. But yeah, there was no medical facilities. So therefore, this was a problem India was facing. Lack of adequate public health facilities. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Next one is high mortality rate. Mortality is basically death rate, right? in Hindi, death is basically maut. You know, Halima and Sana?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you just have to remember M is for maut and D is for death. Okay. So mortality is basically death rate, and fertility. You know, when you were in 9th and 10th class, you did the reproduction chapter. So there was fertility and all that, right? So fertility is basically birth rate, and mortality is basically the death rate. So either you'll be getting death rate or you'll be getting mortality rate. So you just have to get confused. Oh my God, what is this? Mortality means death rate and fertility means birth rate. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Both the girls? Halima,
Yes.
clear? Okay. So high mortality rate. So basically at that time there was high death rate. You know this. The overall mortality rate was very high in that, particularly the infant mortality rate is basically when someone the newborn baby dies, like before 1 year, if he is dying, that would be saying, we'll be saying that is infant mortality rate. Okay. So uh, basically what was happening during delivery and all that, no hygiene was there, no proper treatment was there. So basically during the birth itself, newborn babies used to die, right? Because there was no proper medical facilities and all that, right? So the overall mortality rate was very high, and in that mortality rate was high, death rate was high, but in that also infant mortality rate, like the cases of infant, like the newborn babies who are dying before 1 year, they were known as infants. So that ratio was very high, right? About 218 per 1,000 in consent to the first present in 2020 is 40%, 40 per 1,000. At that moment, what you used to consider, out of 1,000 live birth, out of 1,000 newborn babies, 218 babies used to die. Now the present situation is out of 1,000 baby, only 40 babies are getting died. Like this is the present ratio. Okay. So at that moment, it was out of 1,000, you can say almost 300 babies were dying. So that was quite alarming or shocking, right? So this was the quantitative appraisal of Indian demographic transition. Next was low life expectancy. Life expectancy is basically how much you are living, right? So for example, I fell ill. I am just 21 or 22. I fell ill and there's no medical facility. I'll die. So my life expectancy is 21. So at that time, there was no medical facility. That's why the life expectancy was very low. You can say 44 years. Okay. So, but now you can say today it is more than 68, or you can say 70, 80. Like you have seen people who are living for 80s, 70s, 60 is very common, right? But at that moment, the highest rate was 44, 45 like this. Okay. So low life expectancy was there. Okay. Next is in extensive poverty. There was so much of poverty because whatever we were earning, whatever Indians were earning, Britishers were using that for their development. So what will be there? There was drain in Indian economy. The wealth got drained. So extensive poverty prevailed in India during colonial period, which contributed to worsening profile of Indian population at that time. So why? Because there was low poverty, because of the population structure got versified. See, if you want education, you need money. But if you don't have money, you'll be illiterate. If you want good treatment, right? Though there was a hospital, but you are not rich, you don't have money, you won't be getting treatment. So because of poverty also, the situation of the population, the condition of population also became worse, right? Clear, girls?
Yes.
Okay. So now this is very important question because most of the time they directly ask you, write the quantitative appraisals, right? So again, see, you don't have to follow these things. First, you're going to write first. Then you're going to write total population. So neither the total population of India nor the rate of population growth during the second stage of Indian demographic transition was high. This was the first thing. Second, you are going to write second, low level of literacy. So literacy rate was basically less than 16%. Out of this, female literacy rate was negligible, which was around 7%. Third, lack of adequate public facilities. Public health facilities were neither, you have to were either unavailable to large chunk of population, large population you can write, or when available, they were inadequate. Sufficient, they were not sufficient, right? And because of this, like consequently, water and airborne diseases, they also take a huge toll. Toll means they took tax on life. Tax on life that they were costing the life of people, these diseases, right? And high mortality rate, the mortality rate was high, and in that also the infant mortality rate was high. You can say out of 1,000 newborn babies, 218 babies were dying, and present situation is, you can say 40 out of 1,000, only 40 newborn babies died. Next is low life expectancy. Life expectancy was very low. You can say 44 years, but today it is more than 68 years. Extensive poverty. Poverty prevailed means regulated in India during colonial period, because of which the profile of population got worsened. The situation become more worse. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you'll write it. Just write hashtag quantitative appraisal of Indian demographic profile during the colonial period and start from 1, then 2, 3, and 4, and 5 and 6.
Done, ma'am.
Done.
Okay, you can write these 2 points. Okay, and let me know.
Done.
Ma'am, done.
Okay, both of you done, right? Okay, let's just start. Now we are going to do occupation structure. Start. Occupation structure. Okay, which is like a I'll just try to cover it by today, like both infrastructure as well. Okay, so now occupation structure during the colonial period. Now, ma'am, what is occupation structure? So basically, you know, occupation structure is what you are going to do, like in which sector you are working, right? So occupation is basically what you are working, right? So occupation structure means the distribution of working person across different industries and sectors, right? So when I ask about occupation structure, structure, that means in which sector your working population is basically the people who are working. In population, we have, youth, we have basically old age people base, and also the newborn babies, the young age people. So basically the students don't work, right? The youth work. Also the aged people don't work, the old age people, right? So working population basically means the youth people, right? So the occupation structure means the distribution of working population across different industries or sectors. So basically in India, there are three sectors. First is agriculture sector, right? Second is manufacturing sector, which includes industries, right? What you are producing. And third is service sector. So service sector are basically, for example, doctor, teachers, all these, a lawyer, and all this, they are giving you services, right? So they belong to service sector. So what is the occupation structure of India? Occupation structure is basically divided into three parts: agriculture, manufacturing, which is also known as industrial sector, or the third one is service sector. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you'll write Hashtag occupation structure during colonial period, and after that you'll write occupation structure means the distribution of working person across different industries and sector. And then you'll write in India we have three sectors. Okay, first agriculture, second manufacturing, and third one is service sector. Clear?
Yes. Yes. Done.
Both of you done?
Yes, done.
Okay. So now basically the saline feature of Indian pre-independence occupation structure. So pre-independence is basically eve of independence, right? So little sign of change. So see, India was something else before Britishers, and when we were getting independence, India was basically something else, right? So first is little sign of change. First, the agriculture sector accounted for the largest share of workforce, which usually remained at high of 70 to 75%, while the manufacturing and the service sector encountered only 10 and 50 to 20% respectively. So basically, when before Britishers, the ratio was 80 to 87% of people were in agriculture sector, right? So now what happened? Agriculture sector accounted for the largest share of workforce, which was basically 70 to 75%. And manufacturing and service. Manufacture was basically 10% and service sector was basically 15 to 20%. Clear? So basically this is a sign of change. Right? Earlier 80 to 85% of population was were basically in agriculture, but now it shifted. Right? 70 to 75 in agriculture, manufacturing 10 and service 15 to 20. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, second is growing regional variation. Now, see, in India, there are different states, right? So, there was a regional variation. So, parts of Madras presidency, like in Madras presidency, basically, they have Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Karnataka, right? Present day, earlier it was only Madras, but now things are being divided. Like in Madras only, we have Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Karnataka. Okay. So, basically, parts of Madras, which include this and this, Bombay and Bengal, witnessed a decline in dependence on workforce on agriculture sector with the commencement increase in manufacturing and the service sector. So basically what happened in these areas, Madras, you know, Tamil Nadu and those will come under Madras, Bombay and Bengal. These three parts, what happened? There was decline in agriculture sector. Like the people who were working in agriculture, they started decline, but there was increase in manufacturing and service sector, right? And next, however, there had been an increase in share of workforce in agriculture in states like Orissa, Rajasthan, and Punjab. But there were few states where there was increase in agriculture sector, like where there was increase in workforce of agriculture sector. So basically, Orissa, Rajasthan, and Punjab, these were the states where there was increase, right? Where there was increase in workforce in agriculture sector. But next, Madras, Bombay, and Bengal. So Madras, you are going to write that Madras presidency, bracket you are going to write present day Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Karnataka, Bombay, and Bengal, other. Okay. So in Madras, basically we have four states: Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Karnataka. Okay. And next, Bombay and Bengal. So basically what happened there? Agriculture sector, like the people workforce in agriculture sector started decline, but workforce in manufacturing and service sector they start increasing. But there were few states where there was an increase in agriculture sector. There was an increase in workforce in agriculture, that was Orissa, Rajasthan, and Punjab. So you can get the direct question like this: name the states where there was increase in agriculture sector. So you're going to write this: where there was decrease, or you can say where there was increase in manufacturing service sector. So basically Madras presidency, Bombay, and Bengal. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to write the saline features of India's pre-independence occupation structure. First, little slight change, and second, growing regional variation. So you're going to write parts of Madras presidency. Bracket write present day. Just don't write compromising areas. This is just write present day Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh this, Bombay this and this. What happened? This increases. Just write increase in workforce in agriculture sector. Decrease in workforce of agriculture sector and increase in workforce in manufacture and service sector. And just leave one line, and after that write Orissa, Rajasthan, Punjab. What happened? Increase in agriculture sector. Just write. Okay, increase in share of workforce. You have to mention workforce because people were working. Agriculture sector was not increasing. The people who were working there, their workforce, it was increasing. You are not going to write increase in agriculture sector. No, that will be wrong. You have to write increase in workforce in agriculture sector, right? Or increase of workforce in agriculture sector. Clear?
Yes.
Okay, right. Girls, done?
Done.
Done.
Okay. So now we have to discuss few questions. Okay. That we will be discussing. Okay. Yeah. So this was like when was the first Indian official census was undertaken? Just check your notes and let me know. Sana will tell me. You have your answer here itself in the screen.
It's 1881.
Yes. Sana,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. You can check it. It's written first collected through census in 1881. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So second one, Sana, as Halima answered the first one, you are going to answer me the second one. You can take help with your notes. Like this is something which I have taught you. You can use your notes. I'm not asking you to just answer me directly. And this also you'll get the answer in the screen itself. I told you to remember that one year, that before that and after that in India, according to India. Just
Yeah.
read this first.
Before is 1921.
Yes. So yeah, this is the defining year. Okay, which is regarded as a defining year to mark the demographic transition from its first to second decisive stage. So which is that year? That year is 1921. That before that it was India was in first stage, and after that India was in second stage. Clear?
Yes.
For the girls?
Yes.
Yes. So basically 1921 is the defining year. That is going to define that before that first stage and after that second stage. Clear?
Yes.
Next is what was literacy rate in India during the colonial period? Halima. Check your notes.
Less
Or the
than
screen.
16%.
Yes. And what about the female literacy rate?
7%.
Yeah. Low of about 7%. Okay. Or you can say less than 7%. Okay. Sanya, how was the overall mortality rate during the British rule? High, low.
Mortality rate was very high.
Mhm. And in that mortality rate, which section was high? Old age, youth, or infant?
Um,
Read
like
the
infant mortality rate.
yeah. In mortality rate, see, mortality rate is basically number of deaths, right? So number of death can be old age people, can be youth, can be the infant, newborn babies, right? So in that mortality rate, infant mortality rate was high, right? Amongst all that, infant mortality rate was high, right? Just give me 1 minute. Huh?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, actually
Ma'am,
there's a
I have a
festive.
question.
You have written. You have
I
written the
have a
question.
question.
Yeah. You can ask me.
It's that when we start from 1921, in which month it starts, which dates, or it
No,
starts
there
of
is yeah.
January?
Yes, there is no month. It's just a 1921. Okay, there is no data because we are talking about before the independence, right? Like somewhere. So at that moment there was no records, nothing. So approximately they won't be asking you any date or they won't be asking you any particular month. They will be asking you the year. Over here you got the question defining year, right? They didn't ask you defining date. They didn't ask you defining month. They asked you defining year because the data which we have is only about the year. We don't have any data. Like not with me. It's about India. Like Indians, like economists don't have data about the particular date or month. Right. And similarly with census, you cannot say that we started from 1st January 2021. No. It's like the 1881. Okay. Approximately maybe it can be any month, any date, anything. Right.
So nobody exactly knows when it happened. It's just in somewhere in 1921.
Yeah, because see, you cannot say demographic transition is basically in stages, right? You cannot say that okay, today is 11th of August, right? So today the death rate was high and on 12th August death rate came down. Can you say like this? No, right? You cannot according to date you cannot. Like okay, today 11th of August the death rate was very high and from 12th August onwards death rate came down. No, right? It will like because the change needs 1 year. If you want to observe the change you need at least a good time period, right? For example, if I want to judge you that whether Halima is a good student or not, so I need a time period. I cannot just in one day I cannot judge you. So similarly also if you want to see the change that whether this is a first stage, second stage, or third stage, you need a time period. That's why the data of year it is. There is no data related to month, or you can say related to any particular date, year, week, like that. So we have only just okay 1881. Okay, like that. Okay. But you will be
Okay.
asking, ma'am, why when India got independence, there is a date that 15 August 1947? Because that was something which happened that, okay, officially now we got independence. So there was a ceremony held and people came, inauguration was there, lot many things happened, lot many sign and all that. So it was officially something, right? So this is what the difference is. For data, we need to, you don't have to observe something, right? That's why the data is available for that portion, but not for the census or you can say demographic transition, right?
Okay, so when government is doing censorship, they're doing on year basis, not
Yeah,
on month
yeah.
basis they're classifying.
This is for
Okay.
10 years. Like after every 10 years in India, census is being conducted, right? So it takes 10 you can say 10 years. So after every 10 years, they change. Why? Because see, you in order to complete the data, you need at least few months because India, the population, you can say the second highest population in the world. So you cannot just quickly, for example, you started collecting data today and next week you are done. No, it takes time and you cannot do it on yearly basis. Why? Because it takes, I guess, you can say 1 year they take or 6 to 8 months. So it is not possible. That's why they keep the period of after 10 months, 10 years, we'll be collecting the data. So after every 10 years, they collect the census. So census is being conducted after every 10 years. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. So we have few more questions for occupation structure. First is occupation structure. So you know that occupation structure is basically how the population is distributed in different sectors, right? And next is which sector of Indian economy accounted for the largest share of workforce during colonial period? So who is going to tell me? Halima?
Agriculture.
Yes. And Sanya, next one. Which sector of Indian economy accounted for the least share of workforce during colonial period? Tell me. You're not audible. Least one. We have three sectors. So highest agriculture, least. Halima, can you see here Sana?
No.
No. Sana, you can type in chat box. We have three sectors, Anya. So agriculture, manufacturing, and service sector. So which sector was least? Least means nobody, like almost negligible people were working there. Which sector was there? You can read this portion, you'll get to know. Okay, Halima, you want to answer?
It's manufacturing.
Yes.
10%.
Yes. Sana, why it is not service sector? See, the portion you can say 70 to 75% agriculture, manufacturing and service. Manufacturing was 10 and service was 15 to 20. So least will be, Sana, which will be least? 10 or 15, 20? Sana, I think you are facing network issues. You are not audible. Okay, so I hope I have made myself clear. Least is service sector. No, sorry, least is manufacturing sector because it's only it contain 10%. And the second number is service sector and the highest was basically the agriculture sector. I hope I have made myself clear now. Girls?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So now we are only left with this last portion, infrastructure, right? So that we'll be covering in next class. And after that, we'll discuss question answers as well. So I have a strategy for that. So in our next class, definitely I'm not going to take your test. What I will do, I will complete this infrastructure portion plus the question answers. Okay. And after that, okay, plus the question answer I'll be discussing. And after that, we'll just have like, I'll just let you know the test, like when I'm going to conduct it, or maybe on Tuesday, or maybe if not on Tuesday, then surely on Thursday. Right? Clear? Yes.
Clear.
Okay. So what's my plan is I'm not going to ask, see, notes we are done. Few questions we'll be doing in next class. And after that, I'll share you the PDF. I think you are in the mail list group. I have already shared that. But at that moment, I was teaching the 8 p.m. batch. So it was for them. I'll resend it for you people. So basically, that's a set of question paper, question and answer. So you're not going to write question answer. You are done. You just have to make notes, question answers. I'll be sharing the PDF. You can take the printout, right? And basically because in exam hall you are not going to get the questions that okay, I gave you 10 questions, read it and you'll get like the direct question. No, they can ask you anything. That's why notes are important. Question answer are not important, notes are important, because in notes each and everything is mentioned. So whatever the examiner will be asking, you can answer it, right? So I basically focus on notes up, like instead of question answer I focus on notes, because if you are going to learn your notes, nobody can stop you from answering any question, right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.